Fresh from the State of the Nation address, the president is playing golf this morning. Another one of those money-raising campaign and objectives. He got asked a question by one of the journalists asking, "Hey, with regard to the report stating that there's been a huge failure in terms of our law enforcement agencies to quell the July unrest," and he states, "Hey, man, I'm with a number of folks here playing golf. They're not interested in politics. Don't ask me such questions. So essentially, let's just talk about golf and I'll answer all your questions next week on Tuesday when I'm going to be hosting you journalist." Okay, Mr. President, how is it going with golf? And then they started talking about golf. And the State of the Nation address, what have we learned? They're always the same promises. But one thing that's notable yesterday was the admission by the president that the government does not create jobs. We all know that the government does not create jobs. And it's funny how the other opposition parties were just having fun and excited. The DA leader, John Steenhuisen, stated that, say, "Hey, that's from our blue book from the DA. And now he's finally talking about all the things that we've been saying." And other political parties were saying the same thing. They're excited that the president has now finally said that the government doesn't create jobs. And we all know that it's private companies that create job, and mostly the small and medium enterprise companies that crops up, and with them creating jobs and employment, because giant corporate companies are always stagnant in terms of balancing their huge checkbook profits and so forth, and the employment is normally stagnant. And one of the other things that our president spoke about is an issue of money. Okay, he says that in his office of the presidency, he's going to employ billionaire Sipho Nkosi, who's going to be dealing with the cutting of red tapes, basically looking at all these regulations that are making it difficult for businesses to be able to thrive without red tapes of filling up hundreds and hundreds of forms, and the difficulties of having to deal with their employees, tax forms and regulations and so forth, where it takes a whole lot of time until a company can be legit. You find that it takes more than a year for a company to just be up and running. Sometimes they don't get the required tax incentives, and for them to be able to be up on their feet, and as a result, most businesses falls apart. He also spoke about Vali Musa, who's going to be in charge of raising hundreds of billions of rands in order to combat climate change. So our president says, he spoke somewhere along the line of saying that he wants to reduce the Celsius, the degree Celsius below something like 1.5 degrees Celsius of our heating planet. Such a huge responsibility. Remember, he said he wanted us to have a bullet train, which hasn't happened. Okay, so now he wants to be effectively reducing the, at least let's just say, South African climate change by few notch of degrees Celsius, or obviously something that which is impossible, because if it's it's planet Earth that's having a climate change. So I don't know how it's going to do that while we can't even have trains moving. You know that there are people who are literally building their shacks on the railway tracks. So one of those pipe dreams, billions and billions obviously, and hundreds of billions of rands are going to be raised as a result for that project. So there's going to be carbon emission taxes, and this also dovetails with the issue of coal. Remember, there's been there in Europe has pledged to give South Africa a couple of hundred of millions of dollars in order for us to get rid of our coal. Okay, with their talk of issue of climate warming, Gwede Mantashe, whom no one would agree with them in terms of their politics, their socialist, communist politics. He is once right, just like a broken clock. It always catches time right twice in 24 hours, saying that, hey, we cannot just get rid of our coals, and you must understand that we have a lot of coal, and now there are talks that ESCOM will be punished in terms of the number of carbon emissions that they're emitting, let alone while we're having a whole issue of load shedding, which leads to billions and billions and hundreds of millions of rand losses in terms of the profits that we're making for the fiscus of our GDP. The other issue that the president spoke about, well, he scattered around the whole issue of this report, put the blame, the report of the July unrest, put the blame squarely at the cabinet. And then the solution to that, obviously, is to fire the whole cabinet. And I guess that would lead to new elections. But the president said, okay, we have learned our lesson. We're going to embark on a nationwide streamlining of our law enforcement agencies and making sure that they do communicate better. And he also talked about his nice suits and shoes that were bought from Foschini. I didn't even know that Foschini makes suits. So it was a first. The issues are always the same. And the implementation, it's another issue whenever we talk about this issue. So, yeah, with obviously thrown a couple of fellow South African and his favorite word, a number of. So he said for a number of times. So that was just it. Nothing more. We have Department of your social development, small business, and economic development. All of those departments are obviously being disregarded because of now he has roped in a billionaire person to deal with the cutting off the red tapes, the regulations for business, and also the big topic is Valimuza, who's going to be in charge of collecting money, billions to fight climate change. And that's just about it. Nothing of substance. My name is Mamuji, and thanks for watching the Mamuji Show. I'm out.